The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
There we go. Welcome to it. Monday editions here at Hail Varsity. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Justice Rhody. Always invited to hang out in the stream. Hail Varsity YouTube, where you can like and subscribe, watch the show. Catch us on Hail Varsity Radio, Twitter at HVarsity Radio, and across the Hail Varsity Radio network. Big day. Will it pay off Saturday and beyond? Dana Holgorsen, your new offensive coordinator, your play caller. What does this do for the Big Red offense? The final three and maybe beyond. 489-1240 to get in. 489-1240 or 800-825-5865. We'll check in with Coach Charlie McBride. What are his thoughts moving forward here in about an hour? Jay Moore with us from Big Red Wrap-Up, a Blackshirt Husker NFLer. Jay Bird with us in hour two. Tim Verghese, Inside Nebraska, will join us. Rivals.com thoughts as this pertains to the here and now with the offense and, the world of recruiting. Because, fellas, it couldn't keep going the same way it was going. You've had 2 bye weeks as Nebraska fans, and some of you have already thrown yourself into yard work or just other college football and said, you know what, I poured a drink or several, and it was a pretty good Saturday. The team I root for doesn't look anything like those teams with numbers next to their name. And I had a good day of stress-free football, unless I had a little heat on somebody. All that being said, Nebraska needs to fix their offense, and the fix is in the form of Dana Holgorsen. What's realistic? What's extraordinary? We can bat that around. And the old D word, the desperation thought as well, because that has entered your minds as well. Is Coach Rhule so desperate right now that this is his answer? And I don't really look at it as desperation. I look at it as urgency. I look at a guy who, and you saw and heard his tone today. We'll hear from Matt Rhule in a moment. He knows how important this second year is. He knows how important the recruiting cycle and the portal cycle is. He knows how important it is to give his guys in that locker room, first and foremost, some hope. And guys, it didn't feel like there was a whole lot of hope. It felt hopeless watching this offense. And what Rhule's talked about this season is Nebraska playing their best football, getting better, growing, some of those key words. Complementary football. It's not been complimentary. You've asked Tony White and the defense for damn near 2 years to carry this team to victory. You've had some sprinkling of offensive help and performance, but what you haven't had is adjustments. If you've jumped out with a good game plan and a good script and, God forbid, great execution, you've kind of had to hang on, a little NFL style, right? Where you look at the Colorado game, it's 28-3 or something like that at half. It's been that long ago, but you were killing them. And then you hung on. I mean, you didn't have to hang on like they missed a field goal at the buzzer, but it's 28-10. You hung on, you kind of suffocated them, you snuffed them out, but you jumped out, but you didn't do anything else afterwards, after halftime. Illinois. I think it was, what'd they score? 17 in the first half. You end up with 24, 1 touchdown, right, in the second half against Illinois. There's been too many instances, Elijah, of the offense just not being able to adjust or have a plan to add on to a lead you've built. Dana Holgorsen's known for offense. He's gone and coached in cold weather. He has ran the football. It's not just chuck and duck all the time, pirate style. This is a good thing for Nebraska. This is a good thing for this offense. This is a good team for the football game. I asked myself, we've asked ourselves out loud, how come you you're so, for lack of a better term, flat against the Indianas and the UCLAs. Maybe you were a little overconfident. Maybe as a defense you came out and said, oh, God, they can't get any more points now because the offense is sputtering. And that's been a constant theme of sputtering. You got a bit of a pass year one because you whiffed on Sims. You adjusted and did what you could with Harburg, and this offense in year one, it has not gotten any better. It has gotten worse with a 5-star quarterback. That's not a good advertisement moving forward for your football team. Credit Rhule for making a tough decision of literally like a brother of his. He had to move on down the line. Didn't whack him, but you went out. You did the best what you could for your football team. You brought in Dana Holgorsen, proven. And now you have somebody that is very, very accomplished on offense to match wits with an incredible coaching staff you're facing every Saturday.
My question with this move, and I agree it's time, and I'm glad it was announced today so it's not a Saturday night reaction show or a Sunday morning reaction show or a Monday reaction.
Who's calling the plays? Boy, that looked great.
Yes. Exactly. I'm glad you're getting out of the way now. You're not caring about hurt feelings within the team. Like you're laying it out there, making sure there's no questions behind the scenes. I appreciate that. And you also kind of eased your way into it, bringing him in as a quote-unquote consultant last week. And now you go meet with the media now. Well, he's going to be the play caller. You're easing into it. It doesn't seem like it's a rushed process like it may have been if it was a Monday news dump on Twitter of, oh, well, Dana Holgorsen's come in. He's not been around the team all season long, but now he's calling plays. This makes it seem like it's a more measured decision to make Dana Holgorsen call the plays, but like I think we can all read through that and understand Dana Holgorsen was brought in last week to call the plays. You've just carefully leaked the information out whenever it's convenient to you to make it seem like it's very calculated. And that's kind of my question here is there desperation behind this, or is this a calculated move from Rhule? Like we've seen it before in Matt Rhule's time, like always the guy with the plan. He had a plan for when Evan Cooper was out the door. Had a plan in place. I know he had to respond to it, but had a plan in place for Wager last fall whenever Wager was let go from the team and he had to move quickly to get Coach Martin in. Like Matt Rhule's always struck you as a guy who has a plan in place ready to go. It has seemed within the past week like this has been the plan, but there's also that hint of desperation in it as well. Well, nothing we're doing is working. The offense has never had the counterpunch. 18 points a game, not good enough. What are we going to do? Well, we were talking with Dana last offseason. Let's bring him in. That's kind of my question with this entire overarching situation of how much of this is calculated and how much of this is desperation from Matt Rhule being like, well, we need something to get to 6.
You need something to get to 6.
I mean,
absolutely.
It's a decently unprecedented move to bring in a coach outside your own staff to come in and call plays.
It's never
in the year.
happened.
It's few and far between, if ever. I can't remember a time off the top of my head in college or pro or midway through a season you brought in somebody from outside the program completely to come in and call plays while your former offensive coordinator remains on staff. It's a very different looking optically situation here for Nebraska, and that makes you go to how much desperation does Matt Rhule have right now, knowing he needs 6 this year?
Well, it is critical right now for your offense, right? And here's what I believe. This is my speculation from a timeline standpoint. And over the weekend, we talked about, did you settle with Sat at offensive coordinator? And you reached out to Pete's, right, initially to try and come in and be the with Sat. That didn't happen. And then you kicked the tires on Dana a little bit in January, and that didn't happen. And I believe that both the guys that got reached out to, Pete's originally as your passing game coordinator and your co-offensive coordinator, and even Dana as a co-guy in January, I think both those guys said, look, this is, again, my thought. I'm better in-game at calling plays than the guy that I'm going to be working for or with on this. I don't want to go to work with that. Sorry, I'm going to pass on the opportunity. I'm going to stay in the NFL. If I'm Pete, he's with Seattle. And if I'm Dana, I'm going to take a little bit of a breather and see what else is out there because I know my strength. I know what I'm good at, and that is putting a game plan together and calling plays. And Right now, he's the man in charge of doing that in short order, in short turnaround time. So my thought is this. All right, we'll give you a bit of a pass, Sat, on year one. Injuries, misjudged the Sims. And again, that was Sat's call. Let's bring in this guy at quarterback. And you go into year two, what help can we give Sat? Let's see if it's just the situation and it's not the guy. What help did you get? You went out to the portal. You got a Dowdell. You got a couple of wideouts that were at 1,000 or had 1,000 yards. You went upperclassmen to help the young wide receiver room. You go out and get a 5-star quarterback, for the love of God. Top quarterback in the country. You do all of that, and it gets worse on offense. So it goes back to your comfort level and where you kind of put your onus. And Rhule's stood up and said, look, I'm a defensive guy. I'm more conservative. And maybe that's not been the right approach. So let me turn it over to a guy who isn't conservative on offense, that's good, that's proven, that puts up points in major college football. The defense, when you hired your staff, has performed and produced, okay? The guys you brought in on that defensive side of the ball, because you know that side of the ball a little bit better, self-admittedly. On offense, you need to give that same recognition and same effort and ability to go kill it and not be so conservative or be a little bit more modern. It's not that the huddle's evil or pro-style football's evil. No, it works great if you got Carl Nix and 4 other offensive linemen run blocking and pass blocking for you. You don't have that on the offensive line now.
And that's what I think Dana Holgorsen's task is over the final 3 games of the season, and it's something that I don't think Marcus Satterfield ever did well here. You could argue maybe the back half of last season, but November is what it is, so you have to consider that as well. I don't know if Satterfield ever truly crafted an offensive identity or game plan that fit the strengths of his teams while minimizing the weaknesses. And you see it across college football. Like Indiana, you look at him and everyone goes, wow, well, they brought in a whole bunch of talent. Well, they still brought back 4 of the same 5 starters on a subpar offensive line from last season, and you don't talk about that. Because it doesn't matter, because they have an offensive coordinator in Shanahan who has gone out and crafted an offense that brings forward the strengths of his players while minimizing the weaknesses, i.e. an offensive line that is not one of the best in the Big Ten. And I think if there is a team that goes out there and beats Indiana this year, it'll likely be along that line of scrimmage, really causing some havoc.
Michigan damn near did it.
That's what I'm saying.
Defensively.
That's what I'm saying. But for the most part, they have crafted an offensive game plan that hides the weaknesses of their offensive line. The RPO makes defensive linemen uncomfortable. It allows you to run the ball because defense thinks pass, flip it around. Whenever the defense thinks run and they're committing to that, you go pass. It minimizes the weaknesses. Marcus Satterfield has never quite done that at Nebraska, and he had 2 different opportunities to do so. He got closer last year with the impact of the quarterback run game. He kind of adjusted, but then teams figured that out towards November, and you go on the losing streak to end the year. This year, it's been the same story. I can't say that Nebraska's offensive game plan and identity minimizes the weaknesses of the players they have offensively and brings forth the strengths. It feels very much like these are the pieces that they have. We're going to give them our offense to go out there and execute. And if they can't do it, it's on the players. They got to go execute better. That's Holgorsen's task to me over the final 3 games. Is there improvement in your offensive game plan playing to the strengths of what players you have offensively and minimizing the weaknesses of it? That's how I'm evaluating.
What can they do versus what I want them to do?
Exactly.
What do I like calling versus what I can call? Chuck got in at 3:40. First in the stream, our starting 5 shout-outs. Great Red Shark is here. Your mama is in. Bruce from Spearfish says, what's up? Justin is here. Uncle Larry reporting for duty. Mike is in as well. Good to have all of you in. We'll give some more shout-outs. Brian is here and checks in and is suggesting Dana gets $2 million to stick around. Hey, if Sat got 1.4, things look okay for Dana. You give him what he wants. Coach Brandon checks in the stream. Sexy Grinch is first, so he says at 3:53. How'd Pasadena treat you, Sexy Grinch? I'm anxious. I'll hang up and listen. Can email the show, Chris@HailVarsity.com. Other Brian is here. What's up, people? Too bad we don't have anything to talk about today. Yeah, we need to go till about 8 o'clock tonight. with as much as we got. Red Knight 79 says, what a day for the Big Red. Satterfield's been an easy target. Totally get it. His offense has underperformed. And good for Matt Rhule making a change even as late in the game as it is. Let's sneak in, cut to, why is Dana going to be calling the plays? Rhule was asked that earlier today.
I think, called him last week, had him come in, had him kind of look at everything. I think, he's got a long history of success offensively, both as a head coach, but certainly as a coordinator before that. And I think he just kind of gives us a fresh perspective on looking at kind of what we're doing and who we're doing it with, and was able to sort of say, hey, let's kind of go in these directions over here. So I just think it gives us a great opportunity to have one of the great offensive minds, a guy that I've been friends with before and I trust, and excited to see what he does.
Well, Nebraska fans excited to see what kind of spark can be with this offense, and it's not a 3-game spark, but it's a spark and beyond, right? You want a fire to start here with the change you made at offensive coordinator for future recruits and for this current offense. Tim Verghese checks in next from inside Nebraska. It's Hail Varsity.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, Hail Varsity. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Justice Rhody, and Justin checks in and asks, did Elijah tell Sean Payton to watch Nebraska special teams this weekend? I had to get in there a little bit.
That was a rough one.
Before the Dana news, I was going to play the old blocked kick as part of the Open today, just to give you a whole pat on the back and see if you'd stab me in the neck. But
that would have been hilarious. It's not like that totally ruined my Sunday or anything. It's not like the Broncos outplayed the Chiefs for a full 4 quarters and blew it at the end because one guy, Alex Forsyth, couldn't stay on his feet on a field goal block.
Yeah, I opted not to have Elijah in his 6'3", 4-ish frame come across the table.
I want to know, I'm still wearing my Broncos hat today. I'm still proud of the effort from the boys. It's a step forward in the right direction. I am glad to feel so dejected after a loss, after years and years of being beat into a bloody pulp by my Broncos to the point of not caring. It's nice to care again.
Well, and Nebraska fans may be saying that to themselves as well, with the hope of change on offense. Tim Verghese with us inside Nebraska. Rivals.com, at Tim Verghese on Twitter. Tim, how we doing, man? What's a good word?
Hey, not too much. Not too bad at all. Elijah, I know around here we call those moral victories. We don't really like them.
You'll take it when your rookie quarterback's balling and you have.
Oh, I get it. I understand.
You have $70 million less in cap room to work with this year because of how the whole Russell Wilson situation went down. So I'm okay. Eventually, Bo Nix will have some playmakers to throw the ball to, and all will be right in the world.
Well, let's figure out a way for the Nebraska's playmakers to get involved in Hollywood on Saturday afternoon. Tim, reaction to the Dana Holgorsen news. A week ago, we're talking about the names or the fresh eyes. Fast forward to today, not only is Dana in town, but Dana's calling plays, putting a game plan together. Do you feel a little bit better about Nebraska's chances Saturday and beyond with this change?
You would think so. I mean, again, the thing about Dana Holgorsen is he puts up points. I mean, my ultimate thing is I think how much different is this going to look? Is this going to be Nebraska's primary plays adopting Dana's language into there and, some more so he's just managing the sequencing of these plays? Or is it going to be hey, we're throwing new stuff out there? They don't obviously have time to throw out a whole new playbook or anything, but how much new we're going to see is what I'm really interested to see. But I mean, this gives Nebraska a real opportunity here these next 3 weeks, and more than anything, it's the opportunity to catch teams off guard, like you've been saying all these other teams have caught them off guard, is catch teams off guard with different looks, catch teams off guard with something a little different offensively, a little more competent play, potentially, stringing some drives together. What does that help? What does that do for the defense? Being able to keep them off the field early in the game. And more than anything, it's can they finish in the red zone? Can Dana give you some easy answers in the red zone so you can punch the ball in? He's had success scoring everywhere he's been. His worst year putting points on the board is, I think, 23.9 points, which I said it last week, but Nebraska would kill for 23 points, per game.
It's Tim Verghese with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. And Tim, I want to dive a little bit into the timing of this announcement. And I think you can probably speak to recruiting a little bit better than I can. I'll let you do so here in a second. But with 3 weeks left in the season, it's something we batted around in the first segment. Like, does it at all feel desperate to you, the fact that you're going out of office, you're going out of house, to go find yourself a new offensive coordinator? You bring him in last week as a quote-unquote consultant. Now he's calling the plays. It just feels a little different to make that change at the offensive coordinator spot, get somebody new calling the plays that hasn't even been with you all season long. Like, not a guy who's on staff. It's a guy who's working for a different football team, and 2 weeks later, he's going to be calling the plays offensively against USC. Does that feel desperate to you? What do you make of the timing of this entire situation?
It definitely feels it's unprecedented for sure. And it's something that wouldn't have happened in years past, because over the summer they passed that rule that allows, any off-field assistant can now work on field. And so you can call up a guy like Dana and have him be like a consultant that you can eventually promote to offensive coordinator. It makes sense just in the sense that this is where we are now. Like, unfortunately in the sport, you have to make these decisions early. Like we saw what Florida State did yesterday, and we saw what, Kennesaw State, like, because signing day is December 4th, like the first week of December, these teams have like 10 days postseason to turn around, make changes, and convince recruits to sign and flip to them. So for Nebraska, I think the coaching staff, Matt Rhule himself, understands more than anybody these next 3 games are critical, because right now where Nebraska stands, their goals are still very much on the table. You win 2 more games, even 1 more game, you've accomplished what you set out to do this season, which is to make a bowl game. That's it. That's all. That was the whole goal, is make a bowl game, show improvement on record. And by making a bowl game, you've essentially accomplished those goals. But if you somehow finish this year 0-3 and on a 6-game losing streak, and you have to, from there try and sell recruits that this program's headed in the right direction, you have a positive trajectory, you're trying to convince guys in the portal to come play for you. You can't do that. So if they need to show offensive improvement, I think this whole thing is just making an aggressive move to try and spark some type of momentum before the offseason. And it may work out. And if it doesn't, at the end of the day, they can cut ties, hire a new offensive coordinator that they want, and someone that maybe fits better with what Matt Rhule envisions, or someone he's had, either history with or whatever. And someone that can also, again, in another way, spark momentum if this change doesn't work.
You're promising progress as Matt Rhule. You took the job to get Nebraska back to where Nebraska needs to be, and that's relevant. And the offense has held you back last year, and you get a little bit of a reset this year. You get the 5-star, and it's gone from, wow, not too bad in that first month, to drastically different and no answers. You just had no adjustments, no switch up, and you had to make this move. Talk to me about what this signals to recruits, the kids Nebraska is still chasing, and quite frankly, some of the freshmen on offense that are on this team that didn't sign up to score 18 a game, because kids can go wherever the hell they want for whenever they want with this portal.
And what do you say to the kids that did sign up to score 18 points per game? That's a huge question here.
They are not here. Don't kid yourself.
Yeah, it's. I think it tells them, like, hey, listen, this is a coach that's all in, that's going to be aggressive, that's doing what it takes to be successful, that's willing to make the changes as needed. And Rhule said it. It sounds like it's gone over well with the offense. I think they could kind of see the writing on the wall that a change is needed. And so for the players and for the recruits and everybody, like, again, at the end of the day, it's a new name, it's a new shiny like thing you can hold up. And at the end of the day, you can lose all of the shine if you come out on Saturday and you look exactly the same. You lose a lot of that shine. But I think they'll have an opportunity here to just hang their hat on, hey, we have a guy that's done this in a bunch of different places, that knows how to get receivers in space, that knows how to push the ball downfield, that's had his fingerprints over some of the most potent offenses we've seen over the last decade and a half. There's enough draw there just from the style of play. And I've said this, I said it on my show, I said it last week. I don't think Dana Holgorsen is going to give you much as a recruiter just himself. His style will give you, his offense will give you some juice on the recruiting trail. But he himself has never been known for his ability to go and sit in a living room and or close on a recruit or any of that. And I don't think that's ever what they're going to ask him to do. They've surrounded him with people, and there's plenty of people on the staff that can do that kind of thing. But it's a good sign, I think, just that they're willing to be aggressive. And for these guys, I think, again, a lot of these recruits are watching Nebraska closely because I've said it all year. Nebraska's checked so many boxes for these guys. The last thing they want to see is on-field progress. And if they can show that in these next 3 weeks, it can change a good bit for Nebraska going into the offseason in terms of the 25 class, the portal, and then getting a head start in the 26 class. It's
Tim Verghese with us here. And Tim, one of the things I talked about during the first segment, I think it's what Holgorsen's task is over the final 3 games, is to figure out what the offense does well, which as of right now might be a bit of a mystery. Bring that to the forefront. Try to minimize, the weaknesses of the guys that you have playing consistent snaps on that offense. As you look at that now from an outside perspective, what does Nebraska do well offensively, and who are some guys you think could benefit over the next 3 games from a Holgorsen-led offense?
I think everything they do with Ja'Cory Barney, I think they do well. Like a more Barney. I mean, I want to see, like I said it when the hire was made, but you look at Barney, the way he plays, and you go back and look at what Dana did with Tank Dell back in Houston. I see a lot of similarities there. I'd like to see, Barney running some routes downfield, using him out of the slot, using him around the offense. I think Nebraska actually they haven't done it enough in the last few weeks, but between Dylan and the receiver's ability to get open, again, that deep shot is still there. The ability to push the ball downfield is there. You just haven't done it consistently enough. So I want to see them do more of that. I do wonder what this means for Thomas Fidone, just because Dana doesn't use tight ends all that much, like really at all. So I wonder what that does for him, like how his usage changes. Do we see more Carter Nelson kind of as that big body in the middle? I think it would be beneficial to get Carter in there, just have that athleticism out there. But those two for sure. And then the running backs, I mean, just here, like, again, I know people see air raid next to Dana and they see where he comes from. They're like, oh, this guy's not going to run the ball. But you go look at his history and you go look at what he's done. He's like closer to 50-50 running and passing than you think. And I think that's going to benefit guys just because if Nebraska has a real passing threat, I think it starts to open up some holes, and it forces defenses to not commit like 7-8 in the box like they do pretty consistently against Nebraska nowadays.
Tim, what's the feel and word recruiting wise as Nebraska nears that December 4th date, flips, additions, any reverberation here with the Holgorsen news in the recruiting world?
Nothing initially. I think people are keeping an eye on it. One recruit I would keep an eye on is Michael Terry, just because, again, it's coming down to Texas and Nebraska, and he's had a couple opportunities now to shut things down and be done with it. But he hasn't, because, and it's just my personal read here, is that there is that little tug at his heart that's telling him Nebraska, because Nebraska's been so consistent, has made him a priority for so long. He just needs a reason to commit, like needs a reason for Nebraska to sell him to him. At the end of the day, it's the offense. It's the one thing that's limiting him. He knows exactly what he'd do in Texas, how successful he could be in that offense. Nebraska needs to show him something similar. So I think that's the big one that's left on the board in 2025. Obviously, Dawson Merritt, you're still working on a flip there. The results of this weekend don't help. Alabama kind of putting themselves back in the playoff contention, back in that SEC contention, having a decisive win like that. I'm curious to see kind of where his head's at. I checked in with him recently. He's not planning any more visits this month, so I think he's pretty shut down just in terms of he's going to be sitting on the couch and watching games on Saturday. So again, that's another one. Nebraska shows some improvement, gets up to 7 wins. That could get interesting. But those are the 2 real big ones left. They've got their coals in the fire on a couple other receivers. Jordan Allen at Buford. He was at Georgia Tech last week. Wouldn't be surprised if he makes it out to Nebraska for the Wisconsin game. We'll just have to wait and see. But that's really it's a handful of names left.
Tim Verghese, inside NebraskaRivals.com. Tim, thanks for the time today, bud.
Of course, appreciate y'all.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for hanging out. Monday edition, it's Hail Varsity. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Justice Rhody. Hail Varsity YouTube. Like and subscribe. Can watch the show there. Hear us along the Hail Varsity Radio Network. Hail Varsity Radio. Twitter at HVarsity Radio. More of your comments in the stream we'll get to. Open phones till 5. 489-1240. Does this kind of give your outlook a little bit of a bump as a Nebraska fan, not only Saturday, but beyond for this 2024 season. Had to happen. Good move by Rhule. Little late, but better late than never to try and fix this offense to match with the defense that's giving you a chance every ball game to win. Got to get that complimentary football a reality. It's been anything but for almost 2 seasons. The other Dave checks in. I love where his head's at here. Dana will implement mesh concepts, get Barney and Carter, Nelson free on short crossing routes. He'll take deep shots then with Lloyd and Nayor. That'll open up the run. 10 to 15 new plays per opponent. Just go execute, right?
See, I'm not... I would like to dive into what 10 to 15 new plays per opponent means, because I think it's more likely over the next 3 weeks we see a more simplified playbook.
You're going to have
because when you bring in 40, the new coordinator,
40 plays. Can you do those 40 well? Give me a little different look. Window dressing for the defense, but run it well, and keep running it. And he may actually call something that works and go back to it until it's stopped.
Maybe, because we'll find out.
Hell of a concept.
We'll find out on Saturday. But I'm more of the opinion that you simplify down the playbook, tweak some plays for every individual opponent potentially to make sure you have the right ones. I think we probably see a more simple game plan from Holgorsen. I mean, the air raid by itself isn't the most complicated offense. I mean, we heard that from Hal Mummy the other day. It's more about finding the 20 to 25 things you do well and drilling them down really repping them, get really, really good at it. So maybe we'll just have to dive into what 10 to 15 new plays means. Was that the other Dave who commented that? What that truly means? Because I think what we see is a more simplified offensive game plan for Nebraska, especially given the fact that Holgorsen comes in on short notice with a true freshman quarterback who has not been around the block in college football. I think it's going to be a simple playbook.
Well, and think about, let's go dessert shopping here for a second. Some may feel vanilla ice cream is boring, but you get the right homemade vanilla ice cream, it is gluttonous. I mean, you just keep going back for more. If it's good, it's good.
And it's got to be vanilla bean. Like the vanilla is good, but when it's got those little black specks in there, the actual
bean.
Yeah. But it's not like the full vanilla bean, right?
Let's switch from dessert to alcohol. Okay. You can get the I need 7 ingredients and pour over ice, or you can just say, give me a Templeton on the rocks, please. Simple is good.
Simple can be good. And then can you make little tweaks depending on, I guess, who the house guests are?
How big a wuss you are?
No, I was going to say, can you make little tweaks based on who the house guests are? Maybe you bring in a little club soda and some bitters or something like that. Or I don't know.
Yeah, well.
I feel like I make a decent point.
Sir, you're being asked to leave if you ask for club soda with your whiskey. That's just me, though. Let's hear from Matt Rhule. How about that? How about I shut up? And how unique is this move cut for? Rhule was asked about that a little bit earlier today.
It's probably unique, but it's what's needed. It's the right thing. I think the genesis of this was, I think what you're going to see now is as coaches get fired, I think you'll start to see coaches leaving maybe even before bowl games and coaching bowl games, and the players can have some familiarity with them. I think that that was kind of in my head of hey, I think you've seen coaches take jobs now and then go there and coach the bowl game. When I went to Baylor, I sat out and didn't do that, and so I didn't really have a chance to know the players till mid-spring. And last Sunday, I appreciate all the work our staff has done. I love how hard they've grinded and cared about the kids and done their best and produced some good moments. And I felt like we needed some help, and so I just thought this was the right thing to do. At the end of the day, it might be bold, it might be unique. And again, I didn't bring him at first with that. I said, hey, come and see. And I think as he got here, he felt comfortable. And Marcus walked in right away and was like, tell me everything you need. And Glenn did the same thing. And Garrett said, I can translate this into your language. And then Dana's obviously, he's really a smart guy offensively. He can figure out kind of what we're doing and what we do well. So
good stuff, right? Everyone's on board. May not like it, but you're going to be professional about it. The goal is to get to 6 or beyond. Rule of the day in the stream asked the question here, will Dylan play on Saturday? I guess I can give you a maybe, because that's what I took out of today. Will Dylan play Saturday? Didn't sound too promising from Rhule today. They're going to get him checked out and see how he performs, if he can even go tomorrow during practice. But listen, I think you got to be ready for a Harburg Saturday, if that is possible.
Well, and it was one of the things I talked about on our other show, the Average Joe Sports Show yesterday, was how interesting that was looking back to have that information leaked out to the media. 2 days after the injury, expecting him to be a go against USC.
Get ready for two quarterbacks, USC.
Well, there's that, but it also just seemed interesting to me, like, 2 days after the injury, before the guy's gone through the healing process, you're saying you're expecting him to play against USC. That struck me as a little odd looking back, and I think now with the benefit of hindsight, knowing what we know today, it still strikes me as a little odd of, like, I guess you don't want to screw up the confidence of your freshman quarterback, so we're planning on rolling with him in 2 weeks. Take that conversation off the map for people like us during the bye week. Still, looking back, makes me go, like, I don't think that was based on fact or reality.
No, you just got to float it out there, and at least it's out there in the ether.
And it takes care of the yahoos like us making a mountain out of a
molehill. What's going to happen? Cut 10 here. Where did the offense fall short under Sat? Rhule didn't want to really get specific, but here's his answer to the question.
I think that's too big of a picture. I think if I said anything, I just think as we've moved throughout the year, we've probably tried to do too many things. Try to get trying to get this guy involved, trying to get that guy involved. Trying to make up for, hey, we're struggling a little bit here. Probably too much of that as opposed to just sort of. And I'm not blaming. I'll put that squarely on me as the head coach. I'm not putting that on anyone else. Maybe like I said, a fresh look from the outside, someone with eyes, with no context of the history of everything, just kind of watching it. I think that's probably the biggest thing, and we'll see what it does. I don't know that we're all of a sudden going to score 50 points a game, but maybe we can get 10 more, 15, 13 more points. Maybe we can convert a couple more third downs. So that I think that's just the hope, is just, hey, what do we do well, and let's build on that.
And there was something really big he said in there that I don't want to get lost, where he talked about some guy who hasn't had eyes on it thus far, like a new fresh set of eyes. I think that's kind of speaking to the fact that you have an offensive coordinator that comes in that wasn't a part of what this was last year, that wasn't listening to all Matt Rhule's press conferences, that hasn't been directed by Rhule, hey, this is what we want to do offensively. It's a guy that is no longer blinded by what we want to do and only comes in and looks at what we can do. And I think that's a really, really big factor that I don't want to get lost in that comment. It's essentially Matt Rhule saying, like, hey, just because our offensive coordinator has a plan of what he wants to do, like, that's off the table now. It's not a coordinator that has anything he wants to. He's got 3 games to get it right. No preconceived notions of what this offense should be or what he wants it to be. It's a case of, hey, what can we do?
Well, and it goes back to, does the offensive philosophy under Sat match what your guys can do? Mm-hmm. And what does it match what they can do well? And the answer has been no, more times than not, with any consistency for 4 quarters of putting drives together and putting points up. What Damon tell us last week? You've crossed into opponents' territory 60% of the time this season. And you have a 40% conversion rate when it comes to points. We'll wrap up hour 1 at Hail Varsity. 489-1240 to get in.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time this hour, it's Hail Varsity. Hail Varsity YouTube, like and subscribe. Spotify, iTunes, Google Play when you search Hail Varsity Radio. For the podcast download, give us a review. Appreciate it, good, bad, or ugly. You're looking for some gift ideas this holiday season. Elijah, the Hail Varsity gear is something that maybe you need to put in that stocking under the tree whenever you put your tree up. HurrdatSports.com is where you log on. And also HailVarsity.com. Is it /gear?
It is not. It is /shop.
/shop. Oh, that's good. It's good to know. /shop.
Yeah, so the best thing I can say.
You've purchased
easiest way, yeah.
A fleece.
Just Google.
Keeps you warm and gives you many compliments.
One, it's fantastic for Black Friday being right around the corner. Get some Christmas shopping done. Easiest way to find it. Search up Hail Varsity Radio merch. Just Google that.
Get the merch!
Hail Varsity Radio merch, and then it should pop up for you. Hail Varsity podcast merch. You can find all the Hail Varsity Radio goodies. Hoodies, crew necks. We have front pocket tees, coffee mugs. I have a coffee mug at home. Fantastic. Gets the job done.
Right.
It's my favorite coffee mug. It's just so much better than the other ones based on how it holds that coffee, and then I'm able to drink from it. It's the best coffee cup I've ever had.
Do you ever see the movie Flight with Denzel Washington? It's probably about 10 years old, where he's the drunk pilot and he miraculously does a 360 inverted backwards landing to save almost all souls on board. Well, he had a bit of a drinking problem in the movie, and to get straightened out, John Goodman's character was his dealer, and they tried to search John Goodman, and he was kind of this hippie Southern-looking dude, and he just screamed at the security detail, "Get your hands off the merch!" Well, we're asking you to get your hands on the merch. Yes.
That's a long-winded way to get to that.
Hey, we got minutes to fill. Let's hear more from Matt Rhule, Cut 6. Where's Satterfield on all of this in lieu of Dana getting bumped to OC and play designer?
Just worried about right now. Marcus is about as good a man as I know, and he could have just said, "Hey, you know what? Fire me. Give me my money. I'm going to go home." But he didn't. He didn't. In a world where, trust me, I get it, it's a results business, but you're still trying to teach some life lessons to our guys. He humbled himself and said, what do I need to do? The first day Dana said to me, he watched practice. He's like, "Man, you got really good coaches." I'm watching them out there. I'm watching EJ, I'm watching Donnie, I'm watching Sat, I'm watching Glenn, I'm watching Garrett. There's great coaches here. We just have to find the things that our guys do well. Let's just do those things and eliminate all the other stuff. Yeah, so Sat's out there coaching the tight ends. Garrett's coaching the wideouts. Donnie's coaching the O-line. Glenn's coaching the quarterbacks. EJ's coaching the running backs. And anything that Dana needs, they're helping him. He can't come in and change the offense. He can't come in and install the air raid. You can't come in and we're in week 11, as you said, but you can come in and say, "Hey, what are the things that we do well? Who are the guys that make plays? And let's figure out how to do it with those guys." So I think that's the big picture that I think he's doing right now.
Captain checks in here in the Stream Hail Varsity YouTube channel. "I did not think Rhule would make the move. I love it because he's trying to do whatever it takes to extend the season. That is the flat-out bottom line." He is backing up his words with action, and you have a little bit of hope here for this offense Saturday and beyond, and maybe even into 2025. Coach McBride, Uncle Charlie up next. What's he think? Jay Moore also in Hour 2 with Hail Varsity.
This is Christian Peter. I'm sorry, but the stories I have about Charlie are not appropriate for the public.
The right case of the Mondays. It's Mr. Blackshirt, Charlie McBride, on Hail Varsity Radio.
Great to have you in Hour 2 at Hail Varsity. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Justice Rhody. You can find us on Twitter at Schmidt_radio, at Herbal Essence, and at Justice Rhody. We welcome in Mr. Blackshirt, a Monday with Charlie. Coach Charlie McBride with us here as we get ready for Nebraska USC. Coach, pretty busy news day today. Thanks for a few minutes. How was your weekend?
Well, my weekend was good. It was kind of rough. I haven't had a real rough one in a while, but they gave me a bunch of stuff to keep me from getting pneumonia, so they did it. I don't know how they did it. But anyway, how bad I was before, it got worse. So anyway, I'm better now.
Well, we appreciate you gutting it out, and if you need to go get a drink of water or just hang up on us, you just eject, my man.
You wouldn't be the first person to hang up on us, and I'm sure you wouldn't be the last.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't do that. Not unless if I pass away, I'm going to hang up.
We're just rough old bastards making Coach hang on. I tell you that. Coach, what'd you think here of the news today? We talked about the desperation angle. Does it seem desperate to make a coordinator change here and now, this late in the year? I don't look at it as desperate as much as I look at it as necessary. It needed to happen. Your defense has been playing their guts out for this season, and quite frankly, last year the offense has been slow to come along. You got a whole bunch of players and options, and it's just not been working. How do you look at the news today with Dana Holgorsen being elevated to offensive coordinator?
Well, I think that's good deal. I mean, it's good for the fans and everything. You just worry a little bit about what the feeling of the players is, and that's something that I can't answer. That sometimes makes a big difference. But I think it's probably for the best. I think it's probably for the best for everybody. It's it takes a lot of pressure off of him, and he admitted it. At part of that he wasn't as familiar with the running game, and that takes a little bit of guts to do that, and so I respect him for that part. He at least was honest with people, and it'll all work out. It just happens that way, and I think it's good. I just wish that I hope the players accept it. Because I think a lot of them cared for him.
Mm-hmm. It's Charlie McBride with us here Mondays with Charlie on Hail Varsity Radio. And Coach, how hard is this 2-week stretch for the players, just from an actual scheme and practice point of view, where you're getting to the end of a long season, you're into November, guys are beat up, and then now you get to your bye week and it's a new coach coming in. You got to learn some new stuff. You got to build a new relationship with a new play caller. How difficult is this 2 weeks going to be for them as they look forward now to USC, where it's 3 games to win 1, and you got a new offensive coordinator that's calling the plays for you?
Well, there's probably some players that want to hurry up and get it over with. But I think, as a rule, most of them, probably 80% of them or 90% of them, really are looking forward to it. I think you're looking forward to, maybe even in the match a little bit, and guys that are competitors will really want to play, and if they were beat by that particular team last year, or even if it's like FC, a new team, there's a challenge there, and so. It's just a matter of individuals. But if you got good leadership, it's going to work out to be fun. And one of the things is the seniors are playing their last college game, and maybe their last one period. And I think in a lot of cases, I think the younger players don't realize until just the week before the game how much it means to them. So it's it's gonna, the end of the season is for the seniors, and and it's a thank you, really. Their effort is going to be the younger guys are going to be try to thank the older guys by winning.
Coach McBride's with us on Monday with Charlie. It's Hail Varsity Radio. Coach, I'm interested to know, even if it got late in the year, how you went and fixed things, or just as the team. Some of the teams you are part of, if it got to this point in the year, you guys didn't really, I don't remember, make changes this drastic. So how did you go fix things?
No, I never had that experience, so I don't know, but I think if it was me being part of it, it'd hurt if I was dropped or dumped in the end of the year a little bit. But if there's an understanding that could be made by both parties, it's okay. But to real people, it's it's a tough thing for the person that you're messing with his family, and you're messing with who knows what, and that's the hard part. The hard part isn't for him to do it so much as it is you're doing it to a human being that has been your friend and worked with you for several times, and so that's the tough part. It's but in his terms, he had to see it done, and that's the important thing. He's got a responsibility to all these players and to the fans, and it just overrides your feelings.
How difficult is it, Coach, on the flip side of that, to not only see a guy out the door. I know Satterfield's still on staff as of right now, but that's kind of what you're looking at postseason. See a guy like that out the door, and then bring in a guy that, I mean, is a little bit larger than life in his own right. If Dana Holgorsen, it's a guy that has head coaching experience. Is that difficult to handle, being the head coach and bringing in a guy that also used to be the guy who ran his own program? And now, I mean, I don't want to say conflict of egos, speaking on a situation I don't know, but how difficult is that to bring in a guy who has head coaching experience in his own right and is now coming to work under somebody else?
Well, you know, when you're coaching, that's your job. You know, and no matter who's there, if you're going to be a sourpuss, then, you know, you might as well get the heck out of it. Mm-hmm. You look at the NFL sideline. I mean, you saw how many young guys do you see coaching and, you know, and everything. And if you look back behind them, you'll see some guys that have been in the league probably 30, 40 years. Mm-hmm. And, you know, they're gonna take their money and go home. They're not going to complain. You know, they're going to do the best job they can because they're professionals. And it's the same deal with college coaches. If the only thing that breaks that is the immature young people, mm-hmm. you know, that try to, that it just sometimes they could. I've never experienced it, so I don't know. But they could hurt, damage the whole movement pretty good within.
Charlie McBride's with us, Hail Varsity Radio, Monday with Charlie. Coach, what do you think of Dana Holgorsen, his air raid background, but he's a guy who ran the football, went to a cold weather state in West Virginia. He's kind of a wild man in a good way, pretty strong personality that Elijah mentioned, but guys who have played for him and worked with him really do like kind of the excitement, the energy he brings. Just from an offensive standpoint, they're not going to reinvent the wheel this late in the year, but just your overall impression as a defensive guy, kind of that tree he comes from. What do you think?
I think it's good. I'm not coaching anymore, and I'm a fan now. Mm-hmm. But I'm excited about seeing what he can do, and I have a feeling that there's going to be some changes, but you know, he's not going to take the offense and completely. I don't think and completely make it a throw about 90% of the time. You know, he will add some things to the running game as far as play action stuff, and that, you know, things will fit that they're doing now, and because it really is a learning. I mean. It's a learning experience if you have a guy new at the beginning of the year, and to have one in the middle with your last three games, you know, he's it's going to be interesting to see, you know, what he comes up with, and but I think you got good leadership, and they're sound guys that are in the front, and I think that. You know that he'll get the message from the wind and the things, all those things he's going to consider, and he's going to try to do the best he can with a week and a half or 2 weeks of being here. And so, but he won't. I don't think he's going to try to make a complete change.
No, I think he'll look at what the kids can do and try and get them to go do it, and. Maybe you'll see some simplification on offense from a game plan standpoint. Maybe a consistency on what you know how you attack, right? Where can you go out of defense?
He may find out who he feels like are the best receivers, and it may be three tight ends. Yeah. It could. You know what I'm saying? That is sarcastically a little bit, but. You know, he's going to try to fit the right personnel on the field, mm-hmm. and that's one thing he can do. And he might be in a situation where he doesn't feel like at this time you probably have two teams and some other guys that are backups, but, you know, he can't work with 130 guys or whatever you got there and change them all. I mean, it's just too hard. That's like you're going to wear out a print machine. So So he's going to take what they have and throw his 2 cents in, but he will do. I tell you, the easiest thing to do is to change a guy's route, and if you're running this, it's easy for him to have one guy say, "Hey, do this on this route," and change some of the pass routes. It's going to be a problem that's going to be the problem for the up and coming teams, because they don't know. It's like having a new coach and they don't know. You don't know what to get ready for.
Charlie McBride, Coach, we'll get you out on this and get to feeling better. Thanks for gutting it out today. Just your thoughts real quick on Nebraska USC. Do you feel good Saturday?
Yeah, I do. I said to a friend of mine, I really wanted to say 3 for 3, but I think I said 2 for 3, and I really feel good about. I just feel good about it, and I think the kids are really going to let her fly.
Okay. Well, we'll be watching and get to feeling better, Coach. You take care. We'll holler next week. Okay. All right.
Yep. Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate you, Coach.
To you next week.
All right.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
There he is, Mr. Blackshirt himself, Charlie McBride.
And I love his closing thought right there. How relatable is that? Well, I think they could still go 3 for 3 to close out the year, but I'll be realistic and say 2 and 3.
I love it.
I think that's not the first time that conversation has been bantered around over the weekend.
No, I mean, because it's been ebbs and flows. You go from, they're going to win again to, well, hell, they looked all right against Ohio State. Maybe it's UCLA. Dropping the hammer on Nebraska and Iowa in consecutive weeks. That's the team I would not sign up to play for right now. Let's sneak in one more of Matt Rhule. And when it comes to Dana Holgorsen and the run game, Coach Rhule asked about, what Dana can do in the run game. How different is it, if at all, what he has done running the football compared to what Nebraska does?
I think we run the same plays. I mean, coaching against him, he ran inside zone, he ran counter, power. A little more out of 11 personnel, maybe not as many big sets, But I think the thing I've always respected about Dana was he took advantage of his players. He had Will Greer when we played him, and Will got the ball out of his hands really, really quickly and processed information really quickly. And I think it's probably the same. I think the biggest thing when I played against Dana is he's just a really aggressive play caller. He's gonna, I'm probably not a super aggressive person in that area. So I thought the best move for me was to bring in someone who is that way and push up, offset that against me.
So that's what you like to hear if you're a Nebraska fan with your quarterback play. Get the ball out, process quick, and just move the chains. Touchdown or check down, but just get me 5 or 6 on first and second down and make third, and what are they going to do for the opposing defense? So if you missed part of Coach McBride, can check that out in the podcast on Hail Varsity YouTube or Hail Varsity. Just search Hail Varsity Radio, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play.
And speaking of legendary coaches like Charlie McBride, also, if you missed our chat last Friday, Hal Mummy joined the show, godfather of the air raid offense and the early
Recruited
mentor.
Dana in English class.
I was going to call him an early mentor, but that works too. Recruited Dana, kind of mentored Dana early in his coaching career. If you missed that interview, that's up in podcast form, or the full video of that interview has also been posted as of today on the Hail Varsity YouTube page. We cut it out of the show on Friday and posted it by itself, so you can check out that as well as a fantastic chat with the legendary Hal Mummy.
All right, we'll continue this Blackshirt Hour on your Monday with Hail Varsity. And Jay Moore, part of Big Red Wrap-Up. Jay Burt, going to check in his thoughts on the news today with Dana as OC in Nebraska v. USC. Jay Moore's next on Hail Varsity.
All-State, 2-year starter, and rush in for the Big Red and NFL vet.
Use Dudeness or Duder or, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
It's Blackshirt Jay Moore with Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it. Blackshirt Hour continues here on Hail Varsity Radio. Jay Moore with us with Big Red Wrap-Up at JMoore44 on Twitter. Jay, bye week. A lot of college football to soak in, and then Matt Rhule making a move today with Dana Holgorsen. Brought him in and now promoted to OC and play caller. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I was slightly surprised by that news. I had a few buddies text me, and I had no idea. I was busy at meetings all this morning with work, and then also after noon about when that press conference happened, I had people shoot me links and stuff like that, and I'm like, huh. Was obviously a little surprised by the news, but I don't know if this fits. The old saying, "Desperate times calls for desperate measures." I don't know if it's desperation yet, but it's damn close with this offense, and it's you got to do something to find yourself an extra 7 points a game. This offense can produce an extra touchdown a game. It just helps out this defense so much more. But listen, you got to do what you got to do, and I think Rhule recognizes that, and it probably wasn't an easy decision. Obviously, there's history there with Satterfield, and he probably doesn't do this if he's not, him and Satterfield being so close and coaching other places. But I don't know what exactly it's going to look like against USC. I can't imagine it look vastly different. But listen, I'm all for it. I'm all for a change. I'm all for something different. Just have a new mindset, a new voice. I always likened it, when you're struggling making putts as a golfer, sometimes you just got to go get a different putter, man. Just something different to look at. It's something that sometimes you look at a putter that you haven't made any putts with. All you can think about is not making a putt, and you get a new putter. You don't have those thoughts anymore. You're thinking about, oh man, I'm gonna make so many putts now. Look at this! Look at this thing. You have a nice honeymoon period with it. And that's exactly what Nebraska might need for these last 3 games is just some better mojo, some better, mental thoughts, mental stability to find yourself 1 or 2 more wins to get yourself bowl eligible and get this thing back on track.
It's Jay Moore with us here, Hail Varsity Radio, the Blackshirt Hour rolling forward. And Jay, you said something leading off that answer I want to dive back into. Desperate times call for desperate measures. That's kind of something we've batted around in a way today. Does this move feel desperate to you from Matt Rhule? Does it feel like a guy who's maybe not at wit's end, but is out of answers and is searching for answers, bringing in a guy in Dana saying, well, maybe Dana can get it right? Or on the flip side of things, is this a guy that has a plan? I mean, we talked about that with the Evan Cooper news this offseason, the fact that Matt Rhule had a plan in place for this. He quickly brings in John Butler, gets that defensive back room back with a man at the top. He had a plan in place for that. Is this a guy with a plan that's been working on this, or is this a guy that is searching for answers, being desperate with the move with 3 weeks left in the season?
Well, I think there is some desperation. I don't think you make these kind of moves if you're not banging your head against the wall and expecting different results. I mean, something's got to, change here, and it's you'd like to get it, have so much time left. So I think there's a bit of desperation, but I also think there's a relationship with Holgorsen. Obviously, he visited back in January, so I think there's some relationships, and there's probably been some communication outside that has been kept. Obviously, he was at TCU for majority of the season. And probably was just some checking in to just, putting some feelers out there with him, and the opportunity was presented itself. And with the bye week, it makes the most sense to bring him on as an analyst. And now after being here for a week and kind of getting himself inundated with the offense and your systems and the kids on the men on the team, that it's okay. Maybe this makes the most sense. To get him going and that he feels comfortable with it. And obviously you don't make the change too, that I think Dylan's got to be, if he's able to play, if he's healthy, your quarterback's got to be comfortable with this change. Most importantly. But listen, like you said, something needed to be done to get it going. And I'm excited to see what it looks like. I'm excited to see, and I don't expect him to, all of a sudden start scoring 35, 40 points a game by any means, but man, just a few more first downs and just getting an extra touchdown a game for this offense is just going to give this defense some more time and take some pressure off them, because they haven't been perfect by any means, but they've played pretty darn good, last year and this year for the majority of the season. Just give them some help, and I hope this is a quick don't think it's an easy fix. I don't think it's a super quick fix, but I'm excited, and I'm just ready for something new and something to look forward to watching besides some bad offensive football that we've seen at times.
Jay, you hit on it. I mean, it's been a struggle for this offense for 4 quarters of football. They put a half together against Colorado. They had some moments against Illinois, but since then, everyone's kind of figured them out, especially in conference play. And Matt Rhule's talked about playing their best football in the last month of the season. He's talked about growth. He's talked about complementary football, and none of that has been existent because of the offense. And quite honestly, a couple of points he hit on was the feel of trying to do too much versus get really good at a couple, 3 things here or there with the offense. And with all that being said, man, the defense has been asked to be perfect. I mean, they've had to play perfect for this team to win football games. And you put that into this bowl here. I don't look at it as desperate. I just look at it as it's an important time to pull the trigger on this. Because from a morale standpoint, you've had 2 bye weeks with Nebraska football fans, and some of them might be going, you know what? It's a hell of a good Saturday. I watched some college football. I didn't stress out. Do I need Nebraska football anymore? I think, and it's not Rhule's fault, but I think some fans are getting to that, and then watching this offense sputter like that with some of the marquee pieces they brought in, it shouldn't be this way. So it looks a little desperate, but I honestly think this was a really tough decision, but a necessary decision that Rhule had to make. It was important. It's urgent. And if he's preaching all these things that I laid out, you better have your offense help him lift some of the weight.
Yeah, most definitely. I think the unique situation, and whether it's, what, Rhule's, feeling, but there is a tipping point, with apathy within this fan base. And some very important moves need to happen with stadium renovations and just changes within this athletic department that you need to keep this fan base happy. And that's just from revenue. Obviously, with revenue sharing coming aboard next year, we are in a very unique situation where we're very well fiscally and financially, and been blessed with a great fan base that has stuck through this thing thick and thin. This thing goes south, man. That becomes an issue. I'm obviously raising money for stadium renovations, whether it's $500 million or $250 million, whatever it is. That's a tough ask when your football team's not successful. So there's that aspect to it as well. But listen, the timing just seemed to be right. And just with the bye week and just what you have coming up, and just trying to find one more win. I mean, you get the 6 wins, and this thing I'm excited to see if they do get to this, just to see the monkey off the shoulders and the weight lifted off this program's back, that they can go out and play, without fear of failure, and just having that 6 win and bowl eligibility, not being there for 8 years, right, and just having that weight lift off their shoulders. So, like I said, whether it's desperation, timing, can't get all the phrases someone wants to use. It can't get any worse. Might as well make a change. Whatever it is, you do these things because you have great communication with your coaches and players. You do these things because as Rhule, as the man in charge, I think he's comfortable, and it's a healthy way of going about it, is saying that, listen, I've tried to get it right with what I have. I couldn't. And it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to go out and do some changes that is rather different or unique. It's one thing to promote a guy within your program as new play call or whatever it is. It doesn't happen too much where you go pull in an outside source and make a change with 3 games left. But just kind of shows you where Rhule's at in this whole process, and he wants to get it right, and I applaud him for that. And whether this is the right move or not, time will tell. But I'm excited to see where this goes. If it, they can get 2 out of the next 3, and who knows? I mean, with Iowa's quarterback situation going forward, that game looks a little more gettable. But Nebraska's got to stay healthy too. But they can, somehow light a fire underneath this offense's tail and can start producing a little more. Listen, it's going to be the media and the talk is like, man, what a great move by Rhule, right? And if it doesn't work,
at least you tried.
Well, I mean, it wasn't working anyways, right?
Yeah.
So the timing was, I don't know if it's perfect, but it just seemed necessary.
It's Jay Moore with us here, Hail Varsity Radio, talking Dana Holgorsen officially getting the play calling duties for Nebraska. His first game Saturday against USC. And Jay, just with Dana Holgorsen's offensive philosophy as a whole, it's been batted around. We talked about this with Hal Mumme on Friday. Who knows how much is going to be able to be changed in this short period of time, him stepping in, how much the offense is going to look like, what he wants it to look like in a more long-term sense. That remains to be seen. But with the air raid kind of philosophy as a whole, I know you played against some teams like that back in your college days. You were on some teams that played against Mike Leach-led offenses. What is the difficulty in your eyes in going out there and trying to stop an offense that utilizes those air raid philosophies? And I'm not saying Nebraska's moving to an air raid, but they have an air raid coordinator in place now.
Yeah, I think the nice thing is from understanding concepts. I think for Nebraska's offense is actually it's a really simple offense. It's not complicated whatsoever. Essentially, the tempo aspect of it is what stresses defenses out. And I don't know if when we played Texas Tech, they had these huge gaps in between, center guard to tackle. I don't know if Nebraska is going to implement that. That was for their way to kind of increase the pocket, give the quarterback more space. I know when we played Texas Tech, we always had to line up tighter because we weren't going to allow them to do that to us. But essentially, it's super simple. A lot of times wide receivers are just running downfield. Almost all 4 guys are going, running vertical, but they're reading coverages on the run. And the wide receiver and the QB's got to be on the same page of what he sees. And if it's cover 6, cover 4, cover 2, cover 3, cover 9, whatever it is, they sit down in certain holes, and it's just pitch and catch. And it could be a 3-yard out, but you just kind of take what the defense is giving you. But then the nice thing is people think that you're not successfully able to run the football, and you can. You've seen a lot of good offenses, and this is a version of this was down at Oklahoma State as well, and was able to run the football very well. Oklahoma State was, and because they spread you out, and they put you in they get you thinking in a pass first situation. So you get to go in, and all of a sudden, boom! It's just a quick handoff, and you're just short a guy in the box, and you're able to have successful run games and successful run plays without much effort. So it's, and whether or not that's going to be implemented, I don't know. I don't foresee that. But that's the nice thing is you can pick up the concepts really quick because it's not difficult to go that fast. You have to play. You have your concepts, your play calls, your understanding of the offense has to be rather simple. So it could be versions and tweaks and things that you can implement within what they're doing now. But it's when it's going, man, it's tough. It's hard, and the Texas Tech teams and Kentucky's teams in the past, that was the first versions of it. Now, honestly, it's 75 to 80% of the offenses in the country kind of run some sort of version of it to some extent. The spread, up tempo, basketball and grass type of philosophies, and then you wrinkle it in there with some of the RPO games and some of what Urban Meyer kind of was able to do at Utah with Alex Smith, and that's you kind of merge those two, and that's kind of what you get in college football offenses nowadays. So. Yeah, I'm just excited to see what it potentially can look like. And I hope Dylan's healthy enough to give it a go on Saturday. If not, I think Harburg's more than capable. He looked much improved throwing the football last Saturday or a couple Saturdays ago against USC against UCLA. But the aspects and the concepts can be implemented rather quickly. Just to kind of go back to what I was saying, is because of how simple the concepts and the game plan can be, because it's really not that complicated.
Jay Moore's with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Jay, I want to get your thoughts on Saturday out in Hollywood and Nebraska with this new wrinkle and element. Dana Holgorsen gives you a little bit of a morale boost. Defense is got to be on their game. They've got to feel a little bit better. I would think that, all right, there's going to be a new voice. Maybe there'll be a better or more consistent offense to help with some of the heavy lifting. Thoughts on both these teams on the struggle bus, and we'll kick off at 3 out there Central Time.
Yeah, this is a good temperature check on where the psyche of both teams are. Lincoln Riley hasn't been successful now the last couple of years there. He had Caleb Williams, out there, and Caleb did some great things, obviously, but they're on their. They've made QB changes as well, so they're looking for something. They're looking for a spark. They've changed putters too, right? They're looking for something different to get some more production. And I think the fan base out there, I think apathy is always an issue, and when you're in LA, because there's so many other things to do. So the crowd turnout will be rather interesting to see if there's more Nebraska fans or USC fans on Saturday afternoon in the Coliseum. But it's just a great check to see who has a great mentality and who as a head coach, who kind of has a good pulse of your team, who can get your team ready to prepare. I think USC, no one's going to make an argument. They probably have more talent, but that doesn't mean anything if it's not willing to work and execute and do the right things. But I think Nebraska's going to come out with a fresh mindset, and they're not going to give up. They know they can play better, and they're going to come out and execute. And I look for Nebraska to compete. I know the line's still, 9.5 points. We'll see how that finishes. Getting closer to game time. But I fully expect Nebraska to come out and compete and fight and battle and be in this thing for four quarters. I know they've shown the ability to do that a lot this year. They've also shown the ability, obviously, to not do it with some of the inconsistencies. But I feel like the good Nebraska is going to show up on Saturday and hopefully get it done and get that 6th win and trend in the right direction at the end of the season. But obviously, it's going to be just got to wait a few more days here and then kind of see where everything is when the dust settles.
Jay, as we wind it down here, what is one or two things you're going to be watching for from the offense on Saturday to see if the Holgorsen impact has been felt? Like, it's probably still going to look like Nebraska's offense from the past 9 games in terms of what is called. You can't put in a whole bunch, but just what's your take on some things to watch for in terms of has Holgorsen made an impact?
I think one thing where I don't know if this is a Dillon thing or a Satterfield thing, but it just we don't take sometimes what the defense is given to us. It looks like there's sometimes easier throws that can be made, and we don't do it. It could be multiple of things. I just want to see this offense be really, really efficient. That's running the football, but that's also if you got a 4-yard out or you got to dump it off to your running back and he gets you 4 or 5 yards, then take it. I know a lot of times it's as a quarterback you're taught touchdown or check down, and that may still be the instance, but I just want to see just efficient ball. Move the chains. Doesn't have to be, I know they're looking for more explosive plays offensively, and I get it. But sometimes just being a little methodical here, 4 or 5 here, 4 or 5 there, just keep doing that, and then boom, then you take your shot. It just seems like too many times we're not successful on first down and then not successful on third down. Then we're forced into an obvious passing situation, and then obviously the defense knows what you're doing, and they tee off on you, and you're punting the football after, 45 seconds of running 3 plays. So I just want to see just consistent, efficient offense whether that's Holgorsen's impact or that's just, guys just executing better, having a better game plan, being a little more prepared coming out of the bye week, whatever it is. But I want to see more efficiency. It's just this offense has been too boom or bust. And I just want to see just consistent and just keep that momentum going offensively, whether it's at USC or, to finish out this season.
Jay Moore with us, Big Red Wrap-Up at JMoore44 on Twitter. Jay Bird will be watching tomorrow. Thanks much.
You got it. Thanks, boys.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for hanging out. Monday edition, Hail Varsity. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Justice Rhody. And a busy one tomorrow. Matt Verghese going to join us. We'll check in. Michael Bruntz, Mitch Sherman, maybe another surprise up our sleeve. And good reaction. Thanks to all of you for checking us out in the stream. You're always welcome to watch the show, Hail Varsity YouTube. Like and subscribe there, Hail Varsity Radio. Twitter at HVarsity Radio. Give that a follow. And if you want to take us on your time, please do it. Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, just search Hail Varsity Radio. Give us a rating, good, bad, ugly. We want the feedback. A couple minutes here to squeeze in some more phone calls, 489-1240, 800-825-5865. And big thanks to Jay Moore, Charlie McBride, and Tim Verghese of Rivals and Inside Nebraska. Good input from Tim on the reality of recruiting and signing day here December 4th. And you need guys on the current roster to be excited about the offense. You need guys that you want in the future to be excited about the offense. And Dana Holgorsen taking the reins today. So, Monday to get buckled up here. Use your seatbelt. It saves lives. It prevents injuries only if properly worn. Make it click. A message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. So, this is not the start of a joke. The two Bronco fans were talking at a press conference, and this was before the Rhule presser. Bruncy and another Donk fan, our dear friend Evan Bland, they were both like, well, what were you expecting? Well, what were you expecting? And they both were like, well, I thought he'd miss the kick. Not get it blocked. How did you react in real time, Elijah Herbel, to the Chiefs staying unbeaten and the kick getting blocked? We can play Mitch Holtis's call if you need a refresher.
No. My roommates can confirm this because they were in another room playing Call of Duty at the time.
Was there a loud, blood-curdling scream?
It was just the no! And then...
Bleep, bleep, bleep.
No, none of that. They just walked into the living room and found me dejected on the couch, my face in my hands. It was a disappointing end. As I laid it out with Tim, you outplayed the Chiefs for 4 quarters. You deserved to win that football game. You needed more than, 60 yards of offense in the second half. That would have helped. But the defense had a great game plan. Bo Nix had one of his best days against one of the best defenses in the NFL. And if you just didn't have a guy that consistently gets knocked over on the left side of your field goal unit, you win that football game. So I think that's a lesson for the future. This team is much better than where they started the year. They're much better than where they have been. It's a good thing that I'm this disappointed. That's the best way to put it. I haven't been this disappointed in a loss since the Broncos lost to the Ravens in overtime of the postseason because there's been no hope. And at least there's hope this year. So I feel good about them. They get cap space back next year. They'll get some weapons for Bo Nix, and they'll be all right.
Steven, avid listener, appreciate you, Steven. Appreciate all the veterans out there. And Steven shouting out former Huskers Mark Blazak, Terrell Newby, fellow Nebraska Army National Guard service members on Veterans Day. I was thinking my grandpa Schmidt served in World War II over and fought the Germans, Purple Heart recipient. So thank a veteran, hug a veteran, and appreciate all of you, and for sure.
You say your grandpa, I also think of my grandpa fought in Vietnam. Going to give him a call right after the show here ends today and thank you for the service. Yeah? So
that's awesome.
Big for the veterans. Thank you for all the veterans out there for your service to the country.
For sure. We'll do it again tomorrow. Come on back, 4 o'clock with Hail Varsity, and can always subscribe. Hail Varsity YouTube channel. Thanks.